2% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't lived the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and damn, they sent me where the life is be. The level 4 with depth and fights, the type of shit they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee, I refuse to die a chump. I never been a bitch, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get punked, some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5. Year-long racial fights, but homie, all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole, causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, bulldogs and skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF and Gumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. The Northerners was loony, quick to ride up on their rivals. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in their Bibles. Political and tribal, the Crips and moves, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IEs, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the Gangsta Crips move, whatever click you choose. Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. You already know what time it is, man. We got another interview today. We got a good friend of mine, a brother who I did some time with. We got the one, the only Medley from the California Gardens in San Bernardino. What's up, homie? How you been?
Man, I've been good, man. I'm blessed. I can't complain.
And for those out there, of course, who may not know, I've done a lot of time with Medley, and he also was my inspiration to get my act together and come on home, man. But we'll get into his prison experience on the next interview. This interview right here is going to be about the history of San Bernardino. You know, you hear me speak a lot about the Inland Empire, which is Riverside County and San Bernardino County. And so I call Medley the San Bernardino historian. So, you know, what year were you born? So to give the people a time frame, a time period.
I was born in 71, late part, December.
Okay. And so, you know, first and foremost, let's start the interview off like this, Medley, because throughout doing time, you know, I've ran across a lot of your homies from the California Gardens. I've also ran across a lot of other individuals from San Bernardino, the projects, the Heights, you know, various different hoods, right? And I've always heard that you were the founder of the CGs of the California Gardens. So it's no better than getting it from the horse's mouth, the source. Were you the one that started the California Gardens?
Let me say this, and I'm going to say this like this. I was the one that came up with the name as far as like, because the neighborhood was always the California Gardens. That's always been the name since before I was born. It was the community of the California Gardens. Basically, I was the one that decided that we was going to be the California Garden Crips, along with two other my homeboys that was right there with me. So I set the tone for that. Like I gave it the name. We're going to be California Garden Crips. And the reason why I say that is because at this time when I did this was summer 1987. I'll never forget it. And the reason why we did that, it was an integral part that was going on in San Bernardino with the change. And I have to say that part with saying it like, because it was an influx of LA gangs that came out, and they had a lot of influence from dudes from our city or from our town. And a lot of dudes from our town was claiming LA gangs. And a lot of these dudes and a lot of dudes in our community was claiming various LA gangs. I never took part in that, but I always was a Crip, because at that time, San Bernardino was just a Crip city. It wasn't, you know, you didn't have to be from a hood back then. You just a Crip, you know, you don't wear red. You just did all the things you were taught from the dudes that was older than you, because they was influenced from the dudes that was from LA, you know. Right. So therefore, so that's how we just rolled. Everybody, the whole city was a Crip at this time. And right. Then, you know, it just took a turn as things went on. But to get back to the original thing, yes, I came up with the name, and I was very involved with, you know, bringing people in, bringing the homies together, getting dudes to stop being Bloods, because we had some dudes that was Bloods that, you know, they was Bloods, but they wasn't a gang. They just didn't like Crips, you know, from LA. So I got dudes to stop being Bloods. I got dudes to stop claiming LA gangs, because we all grew up in this community together anyway. So I just got them to stop claiming all this other stuff and let's just represent our stuff. So that's what I did along with a few of my homeboys that was with me.
Okay, and so that leads me into my very next question, right? So you guys got a very popular rapper from your hood by the name of Doggy Style, man. Shout out to Doggy Style. Was his father one of the ones? Can you break that down?
Well, his pops is from, because we got two sides. So let me say this. We got two sides. We got the 14th and the Colorado side, which is the original side. That's where it started. And with that being said, Doggy Style and his pops is from the dark side. I was tight with D-Lo and Droop, but Droop was really my boy. Like me and Droop was tight. And so Droop, I went and talked to Droop and D-Lo because I knew that if I didn't get them to agree, the dark side wasn't going to be CG with us because they was back there because it's like in the back part section of our hood and it's a one way in, one way out. And I knew that they wouldn't have went if D-Lo and Droop didn't agree to be CGs. So I went and talked to them. Doggy Style Pops was there. The homie Smoke, I'm going to say his name, was there. And then Droop had a little brother at the time. You see, that was there.
Another question. Now, you said this was around 1987. And so you mentioned that a lot of Los Angeles dudes was coming down to San Bernardino. So from time to time, me doing time in prison, and I'm sure you heard people say this too, they try to make it seem like cats from IE don't like dudes from LA. And I don't necessarily believe that's true. So when the LA dudes first came to San Bernardino, were they embraced or not?
They were embraced, bro. They were embraced. You know, you gotta think. The older generation, not my generation, dudes older than me. When the dudes came from LA, they had the dope, they had the money, you know, they was getting the girls, they was the ones that, you know, you wanted to be around because they had things going on. And so they had a lot of influence on a lot of dudes that was from our city. Now, it was older cats from our city that just didn't like them, you know. They didn't like them because of whatever was going on. Maybe they was out in the street, they done some. So you had various little cats that didn't like them. But for the most part, like the California Gardens got a park, but it's really set between the Magnolia States and the California Gardens. But everybody says the California Garden Park. It's called Rio Vista Park. On Sunday, it was nothing to see a bunch of dudes that was Crips from LA in that park. I mean, nothing. They was thick. They was thick. They would be over there thick with their cars, with the Suzukis, the lowriders, the Cadillacs, the jury, the khaki suited down, you know, with the blue khaki suits. It was nothing to see a bunch of LA Crips in Rio Vista Park because that's where everybody went there. And they also went to Frisbee Park on Sunday. And then they went to, what was that park in Riverside? They went to that park in Riverside over on the east side. Those three parks, people would go from park to park if the police ran them away, from park to park. But Rio Vista Park was like the main park. Everybody came there. You had the Charles Claytons from the Individuals. They would come there. You had the Dill Dogs from the Mafia for Life. They would come there. You had Danny Boy from Pomona. These is all dudes well known in the lowride game. You know what I'm saying? Danny Boy from Pomona. I don't really know what side he was from, but he was having some paper, you know. And so you had everybody coming there. Mexican Beaver. That's where it went down at Rio Vista Park.
Right. And so how did these areas who later on became individual hoods, how did they embrace the LA dudes, or how did they take to the LA dudes, if at all?
Well, eventually, wasn't nobody really tripping as far as my generation. I'm gonna use the guys from like the 69, 73 era, right? That era. Eventually, wasn't nobody tripping. But then we would go to certain parties and certain things, and they would be jumping on what I would say the homies that was from the town, people from our city. people we grew up with. They jumping on because, like I said, San Bernardino has a school called San Bernardino High. Their colors is red, black, and yellow or gold, whatever. And then you have Cajon High, who has green, gold, and white. So to the LA dudes, but unbeknownst to the San Bernardino dudes at the time, these is all blood colors, right? These is all blood colors in the 80s. So dudes would see dudes wearing their school colors, and just because they bored, the LA Crips or some dudes that they didn't put on that claim these gangs, and see dudes in these colors and would jump on them. And these dudes wasn't even gang members. They was athletes, sport athletes, and different stuff like that. So that's what made dudes be like, you know what, these, excuse my language, out here tripping. Right. So that's when everybody, like the dudes in my generation, and we got together and we was like, we gonna stay down for the town. And as we did that, we created our own sections, which turned out to be bad today, but at that time it was a necessity.
So initially, the majority of LA dudes were embraced when they came to San Bernardino, but after some negative interactions with locals from San Bernardino, you had other locals start to become upset and felt that, okay, since these dudes is come out here and they're not going to respect the people that's from here, then we're not going to continue to support them, so on and so forth. And so that's where the beef started, just like in any other gang situation, right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't really the support. It's just we ain't going to be cool with them no more. They ain't going to be able to kick it. They ain't going to be able to come around here. Back then, at that time, it was an integral part of what was going on because it was a change from the county jail. See, and I'm finna put this history out here, but I got to say that most people believe, because I seen an interview that you done, and people will say, IE started on the west side. IE did not start in the west side. IE started in the county jail, the San Bernardino County Jail. And when I heard that interview, it was from a youngster, so I know he wouldn't know, because a lot of youngsters only know what they're told. They don't really know the true history. So it started in the county jail. And from the county jail, you had the OGs coming out, basically pushing like, hey, man, this is IE, this is this and that. Now, the Gardens never caught that wave as far as the IE wave. And the reason why is because when they came to us with it, and we had some homies that did it, but they was already in jail. So therefore, it didn't really work, because when the dudes came to us, it was like, hey, man, we are IE, but we was already a hood. We had already took up the persona of the California Garden Crips, San Bernardino. So then when they came to us to put the IE logo on our stuff, basically, to say we Inland Empire and no longer San Bernardino, we didn't do it. We was like, nah, we cool, because we was already a gang. We had already started. It wasn't a lot of us. See, dudes get this mixed up too. They think when we say a gang at that time, we wasn't a gang. It wasn't a lot of dudes down enough or had enough heart to represent our city, bro.
Right.
Dudes were scared to represent San Bernardino. Dudes were scared to represent IE. And one of the things about IE that why we didn't claim it is because dudes that didn't really gang bang at this time, they would say, oh, I'm from IE, but I don't bang. How does that sound? How does that sound? We never took it on because they would say they don't bang, but they would say they from IE. And they did this for a very long time, but because they didn't understand what they were saying at the time. It was like, they were saying they're different, but at the same time, they were saying they're a gang because they saying I'm from IE. So it kind of like looked crazy even to us from the California Gardens. So we never took the persona on, even though we had homeboys that had IE tattooed on them, that, but they all was in jail. They had to come home to find out that the California Gardens don't claim IE.
Right. And so let's break this down out there, Medley, for the people watching who may not understand. So geographically speaking, San Bernardino is in the Inland Empire.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
your hood, geographically speaking,
Yes.
is located in the Inland Empire, but you guys don't claim IE. And so for those who don't know, you may have gangs that say, I'm from the IE projects. Sometimes they'll represent the IE first and then say what hood they from. Like, I'm from IE Colton City Crip, or I'm from IE Fontana Track gangs. So you guys just stuck with the being the California Garden Crips, not
from San Bernardino.
Right. Okay. So
See what I'm saying? We stuck with the city because we was like, when you say the IE, you know, you talking about both counties. We don't know everybody in all these counties, but we from this city. We gonna represent this city. So that's what people got confused. But go back to the original question. Yes. Doggy Style Pops was there when I talked to D Loke and Drew. You know, he was there. He was the ones that made the turn, that went from doing something else to saying, okay, we gonna be CGs on this side. It was only 5 of them, homie. See, this is what I'm saying. At this time, when they said we're gonna be CGs on this time, it was only 5 of them that made that commitment. Now, we had older homies off of that side, but they wasn't gang members. They was players. They was hustlers. You know, they was this and that. They came later and, you know, got on. You know, we got other homies that was in the pen that came later that, you know, that claimed IE in the pen, but came home and they was like, oh, well, shit, I'm from California Gardens. So, you know, they ended up getting the California Gardens tattooed on them too. But we have one side, and I have to say this because this is a story. This is the California Gardens story. We have one side, though. We no longer have that side. And they always was IE. We could never get them to drop their IE. And that was the 18th Street CG side. The 18th Street CG side, they never would drop their IE. So we just kind of like went along with them because, you know, we had 3 different sides, and the field used to separate all of us basically at one time. Now they got houses and streets to all that. But back then, a field used to separate all 3 sides. And so the 18th Street side was CGs. Now we no longer have that side. You know, things took place. They dropped the CG. That's a whole nother story. They dropped the CG, kept the IE, and then, you know, but we still have homies that represent our hood that's from that side. And they have IE tattooed on them too.
Let me ask you this, right? Because a lot of times, especially people outside of California, all they hear about in terms of gang banging in notorious cities is Los Angeles. And not to say this with pride or whatever, but for the longest, if you look in the top dangerous cities in California, San Bernardino has always been in the top 3, sometimes number 1, sometimes number 2, sometimes number 3. It's California. A lot of times it's Oakland and it's Compton. So when did San Bernardino really get off the chain with the gang banging, the shooting, and the killings?
92, bro. You know, I could say the change came really in 90, but the war picked up pace in 92 because in the beginning, the focus was, okay, we gonna get, because there was a lot of dudes from LA on the west side getting money and stuff. So in the beginning, we was all close, you know, because it wasn't that many from each hood. So we would like help each other get the dudes from LA off the west side. That was our thing. We just gonna get them off the west side because there wasn't that many of them. So we couldn't just go and push a line and get them out the city and, you know, send them somewhere else. We was just so little of us that we're going to get them off the west side. So they end up catching on. They went and moved back over on the east side. So we was cool with them being on the east side, as long as y'all ain't on the west side. But we knew when we went over that bridge and vice versa, we had to be strapped down like a kid in a car seat. You know what I'm saying? Because if you go on that side and you a well-known dude from this west side and you know they gonna get at you because you one of the ones from this west side that probably was getting at them when they was over here. Now they ain't got that spot no more. So they had to go over there. So it was, you know, we used to help each other out, bro. We dudes, you know, we all grew up together. So So it was nothing for a dude who hood later became Bloods. Like, we was tight with Delman Heights, bro. People don't know this history, but the Gardens being Crips and Delman Heights being Bloods, when they turned Bloods in 89, Delman Heights turned Bloods in 89, homie. We was tight like this. We was always tight. But we were tight like this even though they became Bloods, bro. And we would be around each other.
Let me ask you a question right here, Medley, for, because me and you, of course, we know a lot of the history and the information, but we got to keep in mind where a lot of people don't know the ins and outs of San Bernardino. So please explain, at one point in time, the hood that you're talking about, Delman Heights, they were Crips, right?
Yes, they were Crips.
People want to know, how did the hood flip from being Crips to being Blood? So in your wisdom and in your knowledge of that, can you give us what your information on that?
I can tell you firsthand. Their hatred for LA Crips. They hatred for LA Crips. That's just all it was. They hatred for LA Crips. They was like, we beefing with LA Crips. We don't like them. We not finna be Crips. We finna be Bloods. And Delman Heights was the hood that really made it. Even though they wasn't the first Blood hood, they made it real popular for everybody to represent Blood on that west side. So everything around the Gardens, except for the projects, but they were allies with all these gangs because of the IE. But everything around the Gardens that was down the hill, when I say down the hill, because 5 times is up the hill from us, like you going to Rialto. But everything that was down the hill in the heart of the west side was turned Blood. Everything.
Let me ask you this, right? So Delman Heights, who were Crips, I believe they used to go by Ghost Town Crips first. So
they had two sections, Chill. They had the Harrington side, then Delman Heights as the hood.
And so you said due to their hatred for LA Crips, so they basically turned Blood so they would have an automatic reason to beef with the LA Crips. But as far as you can recall, is there one particular incident or a couple of incidents that, did somebody who was loved, beloved out there from San Bernardino get hurt or something? What was, in your opinion, what was the few incidents that made them say, okay, we turning Bloods?
Man, that would take somebody from Delman Heights to tell you that, because the only person I could tell you that I was around and that I knew he was my best friend was Donnie. We called him Donnie Jackson. His name was Donald Jackson. They called him Stripe. He was like, people like to say, they got an older homie that people like to say he actually started it. They coined him the big homie, but he didn't start it. It was Donnie, and I'm gonna just say his name because he rests. That was my best friend. Donnie, which is Stripe. You had the 2 essays from their hood that started it. You had another dude that I'm real close with, and then you had Del Ray, which is, I'm gonna say his name because he rests. All these dudes were very, I would say they were very important to Delman Heights ghetto boys or Delman Heights Bloods coming out. Those 5 people, and I hung with Donnie and the essay dude every day. I won't say his name because I didn't get approval to say his name, and he didn't change his life, so I ain't gonna put his name out there like that. But so the thing is that they were close, like brothers. All of them were close, but Donnie and the one essay dude was real close, right? And he was a rider. He was down. He didn't play. He wore a red and white letterman's jacket, but with no letters on. Every day you seen him, he had this red and white letterman's jacket and kept a 4/5 on him. So people that know him know who I'm talking about. And he was a rider. He was a rider, and they played a very integral part in Delman Heights being Bloods, bro. All of them, because they didn't like LA Crips. You know how they came through our city jumping on people, man. So that's why a lot of dudes became Bloods, you know, and then some people became Bloods because they said, man, it was just too easy to be a Crip because San Bernardino was a Crip city.
And so let me ask you a question, Melly, because like in a lot of cities, right? When you guys grew up, everybody pretty much knows everybody, especially on that west side. So
Yeah.
Despite these dudes turning Bloods or cats from the projects, there was a point in time all you guys grew up together and knew each other, right?
Yeah. We still all know each other. If we alive today, we still all know each other and grew up. You know, before the gangs, bro, we went swimming. You know, we went to house parties. We did all that, man. That's what we did. You know, we got together. We walked each other home from the mall and the movies. You know, made sure everybody was all right. You know, on that west side, because back then the west side was predominantly all black, bro. So, you know, it's not that way today, but back then it was predominantly all black, and you know, we had a few Hispanic families and Mexican families in there, but they was like our family too. We didn't give a, you know, we all, you know, excuse my language, we all was in there together, bro.
So let me ask you, when the Delman Heights, when they turned Bloods, did you guys still get along with them?
Man, we had a conversation. Let's just say this. When they first came out, they came to our park in 1989. I'll never forget. They was flagging their rags. And me, Donnie, I was about to say the other boy's name. Me and Donnie being friends, and the other boy, and then Del Rey, I can say his name. I pushed up on them. Like, look, man, y'all disrespecting our park, because they came out flagging their rags. You know, they had on all red. They came out with about 50 members. Oh, yeah, it was crazy.
They pulled up deep.
They came out deep. They came, homie, out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, homie. Nobody expected that, right? So it kind of shook the west side up, because nobody had never seen dudes so blatantly wearing red, but not only that, just to have the rags hanging. You know what I'm saying? But so they came out 50 deep, you know, with little members and all that stuff. They had little members that was like 11 years old with them that day, right? So I pushed up on them, like, man, what y'all doing, man? Y'all disrespecting our park. I'm upset. So the dude that they coined a big homie, because he's from a well-known family up in Delman Heights. I'm not going to say their name because I don't got to prove it. But he's from a well-known family from Delman Heights. They have a lot of money. They own a lot of property there. But he was a rider. All of them was riders, but he was the crazy one that was known. So they coined him the big homie. So he pushed up on me. I'll never forget, he had on a cowboy hat with a red bandana around it. He had on a red shirt with, you know, the sleeveless shirts and red shirts with the sleeves off back in the day. Yeah. Because he used to lift weights. He had the sleeves off, and he had some jeans. He had some jeans with a cowboy, with a belt on, with a belt buckle, and some cowboy boots on with some red tips. And I'm like, you know, on him, like, man, I'm ready to fight all this stuff. So he grabbed me. He said, Medley. He said, young Medley, look, because, you know, I'm a hothead. I'm like 16, 17 at the time. He like, young Medley, look. He grabbed me. He said, look. And he looked at me. He said, he pointed in the corner over by California and Colorado. It's a bench over there in the park, even right now today. He said, look. He said, you see all them over there? I look, hey, homie, every Crip that was in the park was around this one table, standing up on the benches around this table. It was like they moved from whatever section they was and just gathered all right there. Right? And they looking at all the Bloods, right? The Bloods is roaming the park. So when he told me that, I looked, it made me look. I seen some of my older homeboys that was Cripping, you know, but they was like, you know, they're fresh out the pen and all that. I seen some of my older homeboys over there, right? So I'm like, look, I seen dudes from every hood, 5 times Colton, You know, you had some East Coasters over there. You had some Hoovers over there, you know, because at the time, the Hoovers was cool. They was still on the west side. So, you know what I'm saying? So we talking about 89. And I'm looking, you know, you see the 5'9" East Coasters over there. It's a gang of them, right? So he said, look, but for you, Medley, because you had enough heart to come over here and sweat us, he said, I'm going to get all the rags together and we going to put them in the car. But we ain't going to take off this red though, homie. But I'm going to get all the rags and put them in the car. You know, and that's what he did. He called all his homies. He said, come here, give me that red rag. Give me that red rag. Give me that red rag. This is y'all part, you know. So he gave me that because I came over there tripping, you know, about them flagging their red rags and stuff in our park like that, you know. Right. Just being young and dumb, you know what I'm saying? Being young and dumb at the time. And, you know, and that was a integral moment because we didn't expect that. So the next day, you know, Donnie and the SA dude, because we was close, they pull up to my mama house. So we pull up to my mama house and we have a conversation. And they tell me, they say, Medley, this is who we is, homie. We bloods, we different from everybody, you know, and we ain't going, you know, we not going back to that. We bloods, homie. And we came like that, not to disrespect y'all, but to let y'all know that, you know, we here and that's what we do, you know, and that was their exact words, like, you know, accept us for who we are. So us being, you know, growing up together and stuff, they was like, ain't no disrespect to the Gordons or nobody else. It's just, we from San Bernardino, our enemy is dudes that ain't from here. That's how they basically did it. But they weren't the first hood. What they did was, when they did that, they just made it popular for all the bloods that were in hiding to come out now and represent, you know. So Delman Heights gave the bloods a place, a safe space. Let me say that, a safe space. That's what they did.
And, you know, to keep it real, you may hear some cats, you may have some cats hear this and get upset or whatever, but all that really is just the Delman Heights dudes. They had a gang mentality like everybody else. You know, at some point in time, man, all gangs are formed to protect the people we care about from other people who are coming in here and they don't mean us no good. So it's not that we don't dislike these dudes because they're from LA. We dislike them because they are doing things to hurt our loved ones. And eventually, like I said, that's how all gangs were formed. That's how this Crip gang falls out with that Crip gang. So it's just, you know, you have people who want to identify with certain areas and sometimes get upset and get in their feelings. But I mean, if we keep it real, that's how all gangs are formed. All gangs are formed to stop the people we care about from being hurt by other gangs.
And with that said, it was like I said, but Delman Heights wasn't the first blood hood.
Well, who was the first blood hood in San Bernardino?
The Magnolia States, bro. And people might say that's a lie, but it's actual facts. They were a blood hood because the dudes that started the Magnolia States, and a lot of people don't know this, the dudes that started the Magnolia State Bloods was dudes that actually lived in the California Gardens. They stayed on our side of California, but because they didn't come into, you had to come into our neighborhood. If they didn't come into our neighborhood, they hung out at the park. And because they weren't Crips, you know, they became bloods and they just started, they knew they couldn't do it on our side of town because it was on, you know, on our side of the neighborhood. So they just they started in the park and then moved over to the Magnolia State and they just became the Magnolia State Bloods. They actually lived in the California Gardens. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's not true. Delman Heights Magnolia State was the first blood hood. Delman Heights came out actually a year later than the Magnolia States. They came out, they probably had bloods up there, but they came out as a hood in 89. Magnolia States came out in the hood as a hood in 88. You know, then you had various dudes like in the Little Zions that was Bloods, but they also was mixed up with the Crips, and then vice versa. So they just made it popular for more people to say I'm a Blood, I ain't a Crip,
And so Medley, okay, well, let me ask you this: can you give me a rundown of all the hoods on the west side of San Bernardino, whether they're Bloods or Crips?
Well, I can tell you that most of the hoods, okay, I'm gonna just say it like this. The projects, they have three parts to them, which in they have dudes that are black rags, which they're not Bloods or Crips, because they just say I'm black rag. So their whole hood is black rag. But then you have some in there that just say I'm a Blood, and then you have some that say they're a Crip. So, and then the same with the Magnolia States, though. The Magnolia States have the majority is Bloods, but then you have some dudes that say they Crips in there. You got Gilbert Street. Now, today, predominantly, Gilbert Street is all Bloods. There's really no young Crips from Gilbert no more. But back in the day, they had a couple of Crips that didn't transfer over. You know what I'm saying? But today...
Let me ask you a quick question. Of course, because you're going to have dudes say, man, that's crazy. How can a hood have Bloods and Crips in the same hood? So what's your explanation or your rundown on that?
Well, my view and my history of knowing who I'm talking about was the fact that they didn't care about the red or blue. Long as you was from IE, that mattered. If you was from IE, they didn't care if you was a Crip or a Blood. This is IE, And that's what got the California Gardens in hot water later, because we wasn't IE. But that's a whole nother topic.
Right. And sorry to interrupt. So I interrupted you when you was naming off the hoods in San Bernardino.
So Gilbert Street today is all Bloods. There's no Crips in Gilbert Street today. But when it kind of first got going, they had a couple of dudes that stayed Crip. Delman Heights has Crips and Bloods, but they're more known for being Bloods. They have two sides. They have the 28th side, which is the Ghetto Boys. And then they have the Flores side, which is kind of more of the Crips, the Flores. They might have some Bloods that's Flores too. But I know I met several people that's Flores Street in Delman Heights, and they're Crips.
And that's crazy that you mentioned that, because I didn't know that until recently, that there are still Crips in Delman Heights. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes, because what matters to them is they hood in the IE. It don't matter. The red or blue don't matter, like I said. And it only mattered to the California Gardens, as far as on that west side. You couldn't be from the California Gardens and be a Blood. It's not going to happen. People will say, oh, no. If you might have been cool with the California Gardens, but you was never a CG and being a Blood. They're not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's too much history.
And so who were the first Crips in San Bernardino or the IE area?
Well, it's for me, I'm going to say 5 times, because 5 times was out a lot sooner than a lot of the hoods. I can't tell you when Ghost Town started, but they were equal and parallel when it comes to having hoods in San Bernardino. The Ghost Town, Delman Heights Crips, and the Hampton Street Ghost Town Crips, and then you have 5 times. Those were the first 2 Crip hoods in San Bernardino. You have people that say 5 times is in Rialto. They up the hill, because when we say up the hill, we mean that's Rialto, but that's San Bernardino, because their hood borders San Bernardino and Rialto. That's why they go to Eisenhower Rialto school districts. Because their hood borders that. But they were the first hood in San Bernardino and in Rialto, you might go say. Because they were the first hood in San Bernardino and the first hood in Rialto. Because Rialto had no other hoods out there. So that's why they end up picking up a lot of beef with all these new Rialto gangs, because they felt like if you wasn't claiming 5 Time, you ain't Rialto. You know, they wanted to take the whole city of Rialto. You know, that's how it was with 5 Time. But these other gangs sprinkled up, and that's how they start beefing with all these other gangs, like the No Loves, the Trey Rocks, and all these different sets today, is because 5 Time just took the persona of that. They run Rialto. But now you got youngsters that don't even say they from Rialto from 5 Times. You know, they put a K behind Rialto, which I don't understand, because they hood actually started in both of them. They hood, they claimed they was the first hood in Rialto and San Bernardino. So I got to give them big props for that.
And so let me ask you, in your opinion, what was the first hood on hood beef on the west side between, you know, hoods that was located on the west side?
The guards and the projects.
And that's crazy.
And the project.
You said at one point in time you guys all grew up together. So
yeah.
Can you recall on, was it one particular incident or just a combination of small incidents that kicked that beef off?
It was a combination, and then something big happened. But it was always that, like, that tension between the gardens and the projects. You know, they homie not liking my road dog, you know, one of the dudes that started the gardens with me, you know, they always fought every time they seen each other. You know, we would end up at the Magic Wheels or a different party, and it was just on site with them. They got to get down, and then, you know, niggas is going to take their sides. But it was always the one that was always cool and that was always trying to keep us together and stop us from tripping with each other and I call him my big homie, Mitri Howard. Mitri Howard was always a big homie to me because he was always trying to be fair in that incident, and he from the project, but he would always pull up even after something happened and be like, man, y'all tripping, we tripping, tell such and such to quit tripping with whoop the whoop, or he would get on his homie, which was his road dog, and tell him, man, y'all need to stop that. You know, Mitri was always trying to keep the peace between the two. So that's why it would never really get out of hand until later. You know, I was gone. It got out of hand later, because Mitri was always the one trying to, like, you know, him and my older cousin, they was always the ones trying to, like, me, kill that. Y'all stop that. You know, woo, 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 you know. But that back and forth little stuff from 88, it had been going on from 88 up until today, bro.
And so what was it like? Because you said by the time the beef kicked off and became deadly, you was incarcerated. But what was it like for you who grew up, you know, with a lot of people from the projects? And what was it like for you, man, to hear when basically your friends was out there and began killing each other?
It was crazy. It was crazy to me, right? Because, you know, I had younger family members, like, you know, my little cousin Bottle. They was in the game. They was in the streets. And I would call home and he would tell me this was going on. And then, you know, I would call my boy Stripe, Donnie, because I had his number. I would call him, and his spot would be, he had a spot where all his homies hung out at. So I would be on the phone with him, and I could hear all kind of niggas talking, blood, yeah, blood, this blood. You know, they be in the background talking, and then they might be in a conversation. He might say something like, oh, blood, go tell such and such. And I would call him, and he would be like, Hey, Medley, you know, if you was out here, this probably wouldn't be going on, man. We probably would have, but he said, man, you know, it's just certain stuff didn't happen now, man, to where, you know, niggas is on it. And, you know, Donnie, he was a rider, man. He pushed the hard line, man, for the Bloods. He really did. He pushed the hard line. He even ended up getting shot and getting paralyzed, bro. And he still put in work. He still come through them gardens shooting, bro, in a driving like this with the wheelchair, bro. He didn't give a, you know what I'm saying? Donnie
Right.
he was with it, man. That was my boy. I gotta give him his props, man, because you can't see. I'm one of them dudes. You can't talk about Garden history without giving real dudes their props. I'm not a fake dude, bro. You know, if this is what it is, this is what it is. You can't change that, and you can't change that history because fighting Delman Heights, bro, was like Garden dudes fighting themselves. We all knew each other. We all ran with each other. We all had kids with each other. We were fighting ourselves. That was the war that shook up the West Side. You know, that was the determining factor when they decided in '96 after my homeboy Dent and Donnie passed. Right, they decided in '96 to say, okay, we're gonna have a ceasefire because Delman Heights ended up collecting a lot of internal beefs now with the Bloods because them Heights had got so big, they like Garden dudes. They became bullies to the Bloods.
And I was just gonna say, let me just add something real quick. You know, with like a lot of hoods, man, people don't realize how deadly those wars get when everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows where your mama stay, your cousins stay. You know,
Mamas was friends.
It's an ugly.
Mama's sons was killing each other, bro. Mama's best friends, mamas, you know, best like not best friends. Two women as best friends, their sons is killing each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Their sons is killing each other, bro. You know, they know each other. They didn't, the kids didn't hung together as little kids, been to birthday parties together. It was like, and I'm gonna say this from the Garden side. It was like Garden dudes was fighting themselves, and it's the same way probably up in Delman Heights at that time with the dudes that was there. They knew everybody. They said, man, it was like we was fighting ourselves because, like Donnie, a lot of people didn't know. He grew up in the Gardens. His grandma lived in Delman Heights. You see what I'm saying? But his mom stayed in the California Gardens, so he went to school with us. You know what I'm saying? He know all the nicks and crabbies and all the houses and everything. So it was nothing you could tell him.
And so when you said in '96, a truce finally was called.
Yeah, it was a ceasefire. They called it a ceasefire.
Did it last?
It lasted for almost 10 years, bro, up until '05. My homeboy Mix got killed. And, you know, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. I'm going to just say that. They didn't do it, but I just feel like the communication didn't come better for them to say, we didn't do it, you know, and let's continue it. Because, man, these dudes, not only was they getting money, bro, they was playing softball, you know, all the people, families was coming back together. Cousins that hadn't seen cousins was, you know, hanging together and kicking it. Everybody going up to the center on a Saturday or a Sunday playing softball. They going to Vegas together. They like the whole west side of San Bernardino is going to Vegas playing softball teams out there, like, and taking over Vegas basically. Like people that didn't have money was like niggas that broke. That was like broke saying, "Hey man, you going to Vegas? Can I ride with you?" You know. Yeah. It was like, dudes, it was lovely. They did this for almost 10 years, bro. Delman Heights and Garden dudes was so tight, like how it was before the war started, that these younger generations, they hanging together. Crips and Bloods, they hang together. They getting on people together. You couldn't do one or to the other, or they both gonna get on you. That's how it was with them. That's how tight that ceasefire had them again, bro. And it lasted up until '05, bro. And a lot of people lost a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you had people who had lost things in that war that didn't like them being together, so they tried to keep up a little friction. But the vast majority, bro, won on that. They had so much fun and money. It was even some babies made during that time.
Right.
It was even some babies made during that time. People ended up having kids all over again.
So let me ask you, Medley, after now that you're back home, I believe you've done, I don't know, 22, 23 years somewhere.
And I know 23 years and 2 weeks.
I know that, you know, you grew up in an era where a lot of people got along. And so you are, of course, extremely influential out there. Have you reached out to some other dudes who are influential in these other areas and had any talks
Bro,
about
we,
trying?
we talk all the time, bro, but we also understand, bro, that we in a place, bro, where getting these youngsters to understand what we understand is hard because they'll never get to live our life, bro.
Right.
See, because now when we talk about the West Side, there's no one there no more. The hoods are no longer in the hoods. They're spread it out. You know, for me, I always say this, like, you know, and there's no shot at my little homies because I love them. But for the ones that have never really lived there, coming to the hood to them is like going to Magic Mountain or Disneyland. It's an adventure. When to the people that live there, it's nothing. It's like, this is what we do. We here. You know, this is where we go. We kick it. We chill. We see our family, you know. But for the people that never live there, it's like when you say, oh, man, let's go to the hood. They say it with like, it's pride in it, you know. They say, well, like, wow, let's go to the hood. Like, you know, for us, it's just like, man, we going to the hood, man. We finna go back to the neighborhood. You know, that's where I chill at. I'm always in the hood. I don't go nowhere. Like when I come down and visit, bro, I'm in the hood, bro. I don't go nowhere else.
Right.
I don't go nowhere else.
And so today, in your area, as with a lot of gangs nowadays, you have a lot of dudes who claim the hood, but are not actually from the neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, because of gang injunctions, bro.
Right. And back in our generation, people who claimed the hoods because that's where they actually grew up. And so it was more unity, it was more respect for the people in those neighborhoods because you grew up with them.
Yes. And you could get on a dude. See, like, if a dude was doing something like for instance, if a dude was doing something on the east side, but we all in the hood, right? But you doing something on the east side, the homies gonna get on you because they like, food of wars over here. What you doing over there?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What you doing? So it was more manageable. Dudes couldn't just run around the city and be doing stuff or trying to make a name for themselves if they ain't in the neighborhood. But now they don't have to be in the hood. They can run around, be all in these other little parts of town in cities and do stuff, and they know that they never have to report back to headquarters. You know what I'm saying? Because and then getting a phone call is nothing. Like they might get a phone call about their behavior, but once the phone hang up, they're like, you know, so it don't matter. It don't matter. There's no order or structure. So, and I always tell people that gang injunctions for probably the police was good, but it was bad on the parts of gang members being able to have control of gang members who are out of pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why it was bad.
A lot of people don't understand as well, too, you know, I mean, because first and foremost, let me say this. No matter how much the positive dudes talk, you're going to have people in gangs, man. There's going to be youngsters who want to gang bang. They're going to find that life intriguing. And so people may be wondering, well, why don't dudes like you who have influence, you know, do more to get those dudes out of those situations? But for those who don't know, gang banging is a hands-on situation. You know, it's also unsafe for dudes like yourself, dudes like myself who have some influence, because some homies are not going to listen without things getting physical. And then that puts us in also a position to where we can return to prison. You know, some homies need to see that they can be touched, and they have to follow a certain order.
It's really sad to see after all those years, and man, all the lives that's lost on all the sides. I'm gonna just say throughout the West Side, it's sad to see, bro, that for me, because I'm one person that I can always say this, you know, I went at a time right before all that took place. So nobody can say Medley done this to me or Medley done that to me unless it was before that. You know what I'm saying? So I went at a time before all the separation, and it was really sad because when everybody got back together I thought, you know, it was gonna last. Like you wasn't gonna be able to break that. Because I'm gonna say this, and this is no shot at the other hoods, but it's like this. If the Gardens and Delman Heights is beefing, the West Side is beefing. That's how it was at one time. The Garden and Delman Heights beef is what fueled the West Side beef, meaning that everybody, that's what made everybody focus on the California Garden. Because California Gardens is public enemy number one, bro. Public enemy number one, even to this day. You know, you might have people that say, oh, I ain't got no, nah, man, they public enemy number one. You know, as a whole, they public enemy number one.
And why do you feel that is?
I could tell you why. For one, because the California Gardens don't claim IE. That's what their whole purpose was. Right. They don't claim IE. So they looked at us like we was from LA. We was Crips, and we don't claim IE. We acting like we from LA. That's what they basically was saying. You know what I'm saying? But we represent San Bernardino. You know, we represent our town. We real proud of our town. You know, at least I am. You know, I'm real proud of my town. I mean, it's some things that probably can be worked on through the, you know, the city officials to get people off the streets, you know, like more jobs and stuff. But, you know, that's stuff that, you know, have to come with voting, bro. We have to go out and vote and change those things like that, bro.
And so let me say this real quick, you know, for people out there who may have done some prison time and maybe wondering. So when me and you first met, even though you didn't claim IE, you hung and functioned with the IE dudes in prison. So nowadays,
San Bernardino.
And nowadays you have dudes from the Gardens who don't even hang with San Bernardino dudes. So why did you choose to hang with the IEs even though you didn't claim IE?
Well, the younger generation don't push like that. But you got to remember, we came in at a time where we were establishing ourselves as San Bernardino Crips, bro. At one point in time, San Bernardino Crips got no respect because we was from San Bernardino. We didn't claim LA gangs, bro. So therefore, we wasn't claiming an LA gang. They didn't recognize us. You know, this was in the pen. I'm talking about the pen. They didn't recognize San Bernardino Crips as Crips because we didn't claim LA gangs. Riverside kind of got a little bit more love because before the 1200 block East Coast, you know, thing, they had faux trade gangsters out there. So you had the faux trades, you know what I'm saying? Then you had the Rubidoux PJs, and then you had the Casablancas. But the Rubidoux PJs was known because a lot of them had been to YA. They was tied in with kind of like with the PJ Watts. You know, they was known with the PJ Watts. So they had a little bit more respect on that end when it went to prison. So I was one of the first ones that went to prison as a San Bernardino Crip, not claiming IE. So I had to establish some things, you know. It wasn't meaning I was going to turn on my town or my city because I know all these dudes. We grew up together. Some of them, you know, is like family. So I ain't going to turn on them. You know, they could have been like family members or family members to my cousins or something, you know, that made us close in proximity. But the thing is that I was establishing something for the San Bernardino Crips, bro. For the Crips out of our area that didn't claim IE, like the PPHGs and us, but you know, they went gangster. But I was establishing something for the Crips out of our area that wanted to be Crips, that, you know, that didn't probably claim IE, or even if you did, but we Cripping. Because you had a lot of dudes in the IE circle or in that car or, you know, whatever would say, oh, well, I ain't no Crip, I no blood, I don't bang. I know you experienced that, you know, but we was Cripping. So if you mess with me, we Cripping. Everybody know we Cripping over here. So that's what I had to establish, bro. And my homies did that because we was never really together. It wasn't a lot of us then. So each yard my homie went to, we established that we're San Bernardino Crips. Each person, you know, that went wherever they went. And then if we got together, we pushed that way. We're San Bernardino Crips. SBC. That's what we pushed, because that's what we had to. And we took in anybody that was crippling, whether you was IE or not. It's just, this is our area. This is where, and dudes would be like, the guards Medley don't claim IE. Why is you? They would tell dudes from our area, why is you over there with them? I mean, well, I don't claim IE. Medley don't claim IE. They would use me as an example.
Right.
Medley don't claim IE. He a Crip. He don't claim IE. So I would always get through under the bus when it come to
Right. That's how when me and you met. That's how we met, because my homie Chester walking around introducing me to the homie. Oh, this is the homie, this homie. And once I figured out what he was doing, I said, homie, I don't claim IE, homie. I'm from East Side Park. Yeah. And he said, and then that's when you came over there and you told me, hey man, I don't claim IE either, but we hang with people who we have commonalities with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
yeah. And that's true, bro. Because back then, you got to remember, when we came in, cities was a big thing. Like what city you was from, that was a big thing when we went in. The area code, the 714-909, all that stuff played a part in who you hung with in prison.
Right.
See, what your area code was. Pomona used to have a rough time because their area code was either 714 or 911, but they was SGV. But dudes from LA used to treat them like they was from us, like from IE, you would say, because of their area code, because they was 909 or 714. But they was actually LA County. Pomona is LA County.
And so one last question, right? Do you believe that the state or do you believe that the state of San Bernardino politics can never be fixed? And what I'm saying is the gangs on the west side can all be, at peace as they were like back in 25, 30 years ago?
Bro, it'll never happen. And the reason why, because of young, and I say this with love for the young because I love the young, they just don't know. They got a lot of mixed history, bro. The dudes that know the truth, like myself, we limited. We just lost somebody that was a very, very important person in the Colton community homes. That in the Colton City Crip. It was Big Natural, man. We lost him 2-3 days ago, bro. And it broke my heart because I know what he could have brought to the table to make some changes between my community and his community. His brother is still there. His brother can make these changes. But with him being there with his brother, would have made it all the more better, bro. We lost a real one, bro. Somebody that can make changes throughout both our communities. We lost a real one, man, natural, man. RIP, bro. And it hurt my heart because losses like that, dudes that started with you, that helped build up this stuff, that helped the town be what it is, and we come together, help your hood be what it is, man. You have a passion for those dudes. Even if they was bloods, you have a passion for those dudes. See, I root for them because I was there with them when they was doing it. So I root for them. I want them to be great. Wherever community they came from, I wanted them to be great with their community because we were doing something different, bro. We were making changes, even though we thought it was positive and, it was positive for us. The negative outweighed everything. But at that time, it was positive for us because we kept our worth of who we were, be it from our city, our town, our area. Wherever, we had that pride, bro.
Right.
We had that pride.
And let me say a couple things to end this interview, and maybe I'll get your opinion on this too. Like you say, I think now it's hard for certain communities to go back to, well, it's hard for certain generations to go back to peace when they never knew peace. It's easier for dudes like me and you to go back to certain things with our generation because we knew at one point in time when there was peace. But for the youngsters who just grow up from the second they start gangbanging or the second from the age of 5 or 6, they hearing, okay, that side is the enemy, and they never had any positive interactions. It's hard to fix something that they never had. And then also another thing that you said, you know, back in our days, homie, what we done, we gave, even if a dude was an enemy, but he was a rider,
Yeah.
we gave him his props. And that's something that this generation, they don't want to do. Now, if we're gang banging, right, and this dude is the epitome of a gang member, he'll squab, he'll shoot, he won't tell. Regardless of him being an enemy, we was going to give him his props because this dude is the picture perfect idea of what we're all striving to be. Nowadays, you have a dude who's a real one from another side, and people are, oh man, he's a bitch. But if you know that bitch nigga just came through here last night shooting, well, he's doing what he's supposed to do. I mean, so you know, it's just like nowadays, you know, how they used to say back in our days, real, recognize real. That's like, you know, loving the NBA and not, even though you might be a Laker fan, you have to respect what Kobe is doing, or I mean, excuse me, you have to respect what Michael Jordan is doing, or Stephen Curry, or whoever the greatest players are. If you love basketball and you have a real basketball player, you definitely gonna have to have some love for him, regardless of whatever team he plays for, because he's great at that sport. So, what are your thoughts on all that?
That's real, bro. You know, I just, like I say, man, today, the person that I am today, bro, you know, we talked about a lot of hood stuff. And today, you know, I'm just giving, you know, the history, bro. It's a lot of misconceptions about the California Gardens and, you know, this and that, bro. We from San Bernardino, bro. We always been from San Bernardino. We gonna always be from there. You know, nobody will ever change that. My thing is that, you know, I just want these kids to do better than us.
Right.
You know, it's not cool getting a life sentence, bro.
Right.
You know, and then you be in jail mad at everybody, bro, about, you know, what they not doing or what you think they supposed to do because you was doing this for the hood. But really, bro, you was doing that for yourself and your loyalty to the hood, you know. So you have to manage what you do and what you don't do. When I went, I didn't cry about who didn't do this and that. Even though my homies looked out for me, I didn't cry about who didn't do this and that and this. I was so committed for the California Gardens, bro, that I just gave everything up for it. My money, my life, you know, my kid. I had a daughter at the time that was 2, so I was young and dumb like that, bro. And these kids, it's so much history around them with the OGs like us that's out now. They don't even try to utilize it. And then when they do, because of the way we talk, they feel like we on some Buster stuff.
Once again, let's reiterate, because we didn't get deep into your prison experience. For those out there who don't know, yes, Medley had a life sentence. He done, I believe he said 22 or 23 years. And so another thing, man, I'm hoping that your interview will do, it may encourage some of the older dudes who have a lot of this San Bernardino history to come forward, because you know, by me doing a lot of time, being around a lot of San Bernardino dudes, the city definitely has a lot of rich history, man. The city definitely has a lot of rich history that I think would help to be documented. It needs to be heard, you know. So if you guys interested in coming and sharing some of this, you know, this good history, man, reach out to me, man, or reach out to Medley. He always knows how to get in contact with me. San Bernardino has a lot of, you know, sometimes unfortunate, but a lot of interesting history. And like I said before, San Bernardino for many, 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 many years has always been the top 3 deadliest places to live in California, you know. So it's a lot of stuff going on out here, you know. And then, like you said, it's not cool getting a life sentence. Maybe we can get through to some of these youngsters, man, because throwing your life away in prison is definitely not fun.
No, man. But you know, chill, man. I ain't got nothing but love and respect for you, man. I appreciate what you're doing, having me on your platform. I know it took us about 3 years to get to this point, but it's about 3 years to get to this point, but we here, brother. And I just want to say, you know, thank you, bro. You know, for all those that's listening, I hope, you know, this helped somebody, bro. It helped somebody get a better understanding of how things was. You know, It wasn't always about seeing each other and killing each other. It wasn't.
Right.
You know, at one time, everybody, you know, actually got along, was family to each other and everything.
And so once again, you know, thanks, Medley, for coming through, man. You know, sharing your story with me and stuff. I really appreciate it, homie.
Man, thank you.
Born and raised in the Dino, so everything we do different.